Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell. I'm an exercise physiologist. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs because that's what we do. We set programs and lead people through them. I've been in business since 1994. Today's podcast is called Life Out on the Trail, a little exploration of the mind. I think it'll be fun, don't you? Before I start that, I want to thank our sponsors, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden at the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. You know, house prices may be starting to come down a little bit and interest rates going up a little bit. That's why you need that good realtor to really help you out. And what I find is it's not that hard to sell your place, you know, as it used to be years ago, but man, it's hard to find the right place. And I just don't think a lot of agents, in my personal experience, have done a very good job at helping you find places out there. You know, it's easier to get those listings and not as, you have to do a little bit more work to find what people want. That's what these guys do, and I really appreciate that. Jonathan and Lynn are grinders. They're the best, and they can be reached at thegildengroup.com. All right, so today's podcast, Life Out on the Trail. Exploration a little bit of the mind and my thoughts. That could be a scary place. I was once told not to go into my own mind without adult supervision, but here we go. Before I do that though, the method to the madness, for those that might be tuning in for the first time, should understand that method to the madness means what is the science behind things. A lot of times there's a gap between science and coaching. And the science is really important because we want to get to the meat of the matter. We want to be efficient. We don't want to waste time doing things that, maybe aren't too productive for us. Maybe they are for other people. But that's what the Method to the Madness podcast is all about, is let's dive into what is the science behind things. Today, we take a little detour away from that, which I do sometimes because I enjoy doing that. And, we're going to talk a little bit about life out on the trail because, I get some thoughts when I'm out there, when I'm exercising, and that's basically what this is all about. So, I've tried to be an active meditator, and I still believe in it. I really do. And I find, though, that when I try different practices of meditation, it's definitely, and for me, from my experience, some people are absolutely great meditators, and I know you're not supposed to quantify it like that. But what I mean is they make the commitment to sit down and do it once or twice a day for a certain amount of time, and they talk about all the great benefits, which I absolutely think they are. But and I've seen some research on this too, meditation isn't just sitting and thinking or not thinking or focusing on a mantra or focusing on your breath or doing absolutely nothing or visualizing. Those are all great forms of meditation. But, there's active meditation too. And for me, maybe it's just the way I'm wired, that seems to really work for me. And basically what that means is that when I'm running, walking, cycling, swimming, even lifting sometimes, if I'm really trying to stay present, is a great meditation for me and maybe superior to the others. I guilt myself into, man, I should be doing this. I should sit down for this amount of time. And it's very hard for me to do that and not get caught up into doing other things that I think I should be doing. But when I set time to exercise, which I always do, and the more I try to get that exercise to be productive in that present way, in other words, like if I eliminate as many distractions as I can to where it's just me out there with my thoughts when I run, when I bike, when I swim, things come to me that don't come to me when I'm just sitting there. And I get the same effect when I drive a lot of times, and I get the same effect when I ride my motorcycle. And there are experts out there that have talked about that. So, little mini sidebar here, exercise for me often is also the way that I meditate, because I do believe absolutely that we have to give our brain time away from distractions. And I think that's what it is. And I once heard, and I'll probably butcher the quote, but you get the idea. When one student went up to his meditation instructor or guru and says, how do you meditate? And he said, when you make tea, or when you pour tea, and what he's basically saying, of course, is there whatever you're doing, put your mind into it and try to block out anything else, distractions, and that could be the best way to meditate, and I've always thought about that, and I battle it still, should I sit, should I run? But anyway, life out on the trail, so when I'm out there, that's what I get. I get a lot of different experiences that give me time to ponder goals, ponder human nature, ponder all these things. And, for me, it's just a great way to kill two birds with one stone, exercising, fitness, especially outdoors. Studies have shown that, when you're into your environment, when you're outside and you're when you're horizontally moving, I guess it could be vertical too, and that'd be pretty cool, right, if we could fly. And our atmosphere is going by us, our environment is going by us, and we get kind of caught into the mantra of that, and that's why I think driving sometimes is so good for some people if they, can do that. Probably out on a nice country road, I don't know, but not in traffic, obviously, but or riding the motorcycle, there's something about it that hypnotizes us a little bit and allows our brain and eyes to focus more in on what's right in front of us. And we, even though we're not realizing it, we end up meditating on that a little bit. Or in swimming, it could be the bottom of the pool line or whatever, but whatever it ends up being, the motion kind of becomes the mantra, which is pretty cool. So, yesterday, so many different things happen out on the trail, and the trail is this place that I run and ride bikes, and it's really a great place in Volusia County. And the main trailhead for us anyway in our area is down there in Edgewater, and it goes all the way into St. Augustine. Or if you go to the right in one of the directions, one of the trailheads, then you end up more in the Sanford area. But there's miles and miles of trail, which is pretty cool. Don't know exactly 70 something in one direction. I don't know, something like that. I've gone as far as, I think, Titusville on my bike. So many different things happen, that to me, exercise and fitness has always been a way. I don't know why, maybe it's because we seek adventure, but to kind of explore our environment around us. And, I'm just not sure that I would get some of the experiences that I get if I wasn't out training. And I can go into many other stories, but the point is, just yesterday out on the trail, things that have happened that make me contemplate human nature in different areas of life. And to me, that's just so cool. And what I'm hoping is that you kind of understand that, relate to it, and then go, well, I want an adventure too. So, I want to get out of, running on my treadmill all the time and go down and walk in nature so I can see what I can see. Or I maybe want to get a bike and explore. Or I want to learn how to swim and maybe swim out in the ocean and get these experiences, That's what I'm hoping to do, because, I think life is meant to be lived, and it's just pretty cool. Exercise, kind of training outdoors gives me kind of that sense of adventure that I had when I was a kid. And I don't know why as an adult we just can't go out and play in the woods, but we don't, but maybe we think it's not proper, maybe we think it's too dirty, maybe who the hell knows. But I know essentially what ends up happening when I go to the trail is I'm playing in the woods, because the rail trail, which is an asphalt trail, goes deep into the woods, And you stay on the trail, but you're deep into the woods. Okay, so so just yesterday we get out there and I'm riding with a client, and first thing that happens is we encounter pretty far into it a little bit. There wasn't as many. We'll get sidetracked here because typically by the time we were 10 or 11 miles into the ride, we've seen hundreds of turtles, a couple different snakes, a few different bunnies. I've seen a bobcat out there twice. So we really didn't see any animals. Maybe it was too hot, at least up to this part. But as we start to make a turn before our turnaround, somewhere in mile 11, we saw this huge, I'm talking huge, annoying animal. And it happened to be a human who, if you listen to a previous podcast, really picked a fight with us out on the trail. Not to go back into the details of that, but apparently he's kind of a trail bully and he picks on women a lot. But anyway, we saw him and I'm like, oh great, he's coming the other direction, and he seemed to be on his best behavior. And I think he even said hello to me. I don't know. And we just kept riding. And my partner said when we turned around that he said to her, he said, hey, you guys again. And I said, well, lessons of the trail. I'm trying to be positive and optimistic. And I just said to her, I said, well, maybe he said that with a sense of humor and, realized what he had done. And I do think he'd been talked to by the sheriffs, by the way, because he's created quite a stir. But anyway, making a little joke when I said I saw the ugliest, most harmful animal out there. But not really a joke. But I am, in regards to this guy, So whatever, we just ended up, ignoring that and turning around, coming back. And then as we're coming back, I look up and I'm pulling, which means I'm in the front. And it didn't take long for my partner to see this bear as well. But I look up and there's this huge bear, and I've never really seen a bear up close, and I kind of wanted to. I just think they're cool. I think if you know much about me, I'm an animal lover. I'm not afraid of bears. I'm not stupid either. It's not like I'm going to get off my bike and try to pet it, but I'm not afraid. I know I study biology, I study physiology, and I study other animals' natures, and we tend to forget we are, animals. So anyway, so we all have tendencies, and the bears around here, their tendencies is to be afraid, of course, and run into the woods. And now I will say, as we were getting closer on the bike, it wasn't running into the woods as fast as I thought it was. So I definitely sat up and slowed down a little bit, and it was walking on the left side of the trail, kind of going the same direction as us. I don't know that it had spotted us yet. Then it kind of starts to cross in the middle of the trail. I don't know how many yards out I am at this point, 50 yards, maybe something like that. And so now I'm like, okay, now, let's, yes, I do not believe that bears like that are predators to humans at all. I do think they would defend if they had to or whatever, but essentially I do believe they're more afraid of us than we are of them. And but it hadn't seen me yet, but it crosses in front, gets to the other side, and now I'm thinking, this is really cool. This is the most up close and personal I've ever been with a bear. Ellen and I saw one in New York crossing the road once when we were driving, and we could barely recognize it as a bear. So this was the closest. And it crosses, and then it's walking parallel again. I'm like, geez. Because, I'm not stupid, like I said. I don't want to ride real close to it. It startles and knocks me off my bike, So it finally does notice me, and it looks right at me, and then runs into the woods like I thought it would. Now, meanwhile, my partner who was riding with me had backed way off, terrified, essentially. And I didn't know she was that far back behind me. I don't think she might have stopped. I don't know what she did, but finally, as I got by, I waited up for her to catch up and say, "Ah, it was really cool." And she said something to the effect of, being terrified or whatever. And, I get it. I really do. I get it. It's, what we're taught. And of course, I'm not saying go up and pet bears, right? But so the first, stuff that came to my brain yesterday, with that, and I've said it to her before when we've been out on the trail, because we see a lot of wild animals. But I'm thinking, one of the scariest animals out there can be humans. I mean, and later on we happened to come upon two people wrestling in the side of the bushes, and it turned out to be a male and female, and but anyway, my point is, with the guy I talked about earlier that wears black and picks on women out on the trail, it's like somebody like that is far more scary in reality than a bear. Yet I don't know. I mean, I think women have gotten smarter, because unfortunately they fall prey to these weirdos more than men. But I do believe like people are smarter now, that they know to stay away from, people acting funny and strange. But, the fear of some of these animals and snakes, and we've seen gators out there. And, I said yesterday, I'm terrified of snakes. There's no question about it. Like, whatever, growing up in New York in the mountains, we used to see them. And my sisters, probably helped freak me out by telling me how deadly they were. So I'm afraid of them. But I would never kill one. I would never go after one. I would never hunt one. I would get out of the way. I've seen them out on the trail, and when they start crossing in front of me, I stop until they get to the other side, and then I quickly run by. So again, I don't want to pick one up. I don't want to play with one, but I know they're not out for me. Like, that's the big difference, I think. They're not out for me. Like, animals are instinctive. Lower formed animals without the frontal lobe of the brain that we have, where you can use thinking and reasoning, are instinctive, meaning of course that snake is going to strike if you come up upon it. It's not hunting you though. Same with the bear, and the bear has a little more intelligence, right? Maybe than us, but definitely of the snake. So, I'm thinking, so that was like my first thought, out on the great trail yesterday, as I'm, thankfully, I put my AirPods in, and even though I'm riding with somebody, I like to be left alone, and I think most people know that train with me, because it is my time to reflect. So, it's like, why are people so afraid of things that they don't always need to be, and why are they not afraid enough of the things they probably should be? Okay, that's like the philosophical question of the day. Like, why is that? Because the bear's not going to hurt you, but that dude in the black shirt, he's been very volatile, where like some of the women I've talked to before said he was screaming at him so bad, spit was flying out of his mask. This is back when everybody was wearing masks because of COVID. That's pretty scary. Like, that's a person that, I guess this confrontation happened in the parking lot, so the person was fairly safe. I'm sure there's other people around. But if that happens like deep out on that trail, that's pretty scary. I don't trust somebody like that. So, like, why don't we question more of that behavior, learn better techniques for dealing with that kind of behavior, but, and not freak out about wild animals when it is their wild environment. It is their place. Another day out on the trail, we're riding by, and on the left there was a gator sitting somewhat close to the road, but it more had its back still like in the water, because parts of the trail, it's pretty marshy, it's pretty wet, so it more or less had its back legs and tail still in the water, but it was probably sunning itself a little bit coming out, and half of its body was on the grass, and maybe it was 10 yards away from the asphalt part of the trail. But I saw it and I thought it was pretty cool. I've seen them out on the golf course, and I think they're pretty cool. Like, they don't mess with you. But my partner again saw it and like freaks out. Oh, starts backing off. I'm like, dude, as soon as we get a little bit closer, it's going to hit the water so fast. Watch how quickly this gator can move. but in the opposite direction, not at you, like not at you, you know. And exactly happened like I thought it would. The gator, you know, looked up, noticed us, plopped backwards, splash, gone, and she's, you know. And I'm not making fun of the partner at all. I mean, I totally get it, and it's not like, you know, oh, gator, you know. And if it was my daughter with me, I'd be like, you know, dude, ride to the left, you know, just get the hell out of Dodge, of course. But like, there has to be like a happy medium of like, you know, why are we so afraid of some of these things? Like, what are we taught? And don't even get me going on gator hunts and stuff like that. To me, that's just terrible human behavior of hunting things in their environment that aren't doing a damn thing to you, you know. I mean, I'm not talking about some of the other hunting people do, although I don't necessarily believe in that either. I'm talking about more sports stuff and some of these disgusting things that people do for fun and kicks, you know. So like, why aren't we more afraid of the things we should be afraid of? Because there's some real creepers out there, you know. There's some real weirdos, all right, out there. And yeah, maybe a lot of them need, you know, psychological attention, and I'm sure that they do, and I'm not, you know, stating that they don't. It's like, but we need better techniques for dealing with that, you know, because there's far more incidents of bad human behavior out there than there are animals. So like, that was one of the first things that came to me. I had maybe like 3 yesterday. So next, back to human nature. We start getting closer to the end, and you know, I tell myself a little bit, because that's the point of the podcast, and you know. So we see our friend in black again, and we had passed his, the man who yells at people. Here's a funny part of human behavior. So people talk, and after more and more of this stuff has gone around about this guy and what he said to us, which he, you know, if you listen to a previous podcast, he essentially called me a fucking scumbag for passing him out on the trail a few weeks ago, and then he decided to go back and forth with us, like racing us and stuff. And then he came up to us and said, if you're gonna fucking pass me faster next time. I mean, total psychopath in reality. So anyway, you know, enough word gets out, and we report him to Sheriff Chitwood, who rides out there, and his deputy apparently has his picture. So I think they've talked to him. And so in all his glory, we see him with like 1.5 miles left, and he was, you know, he thinks he's Joe's cycling hero, and that's what he told us anyway. He told us a few weeks ago that he used to race professionally in Italy, which is, number one, ridiculous to say based on what I observe. Number two, who says things like that? So again, life out on the trail, man, it's entertaining as hell. So we see him, and he rides all over the place, meaning he swerves back and forth, don't know why. And that's what caused us to pass him a few weeks ago. We thought he was a little dangerous, so we went around him quickly, so we got away from him. But I saw him, and I'm thinking, okay, so 1.5 miles left, this is awkward. If we continue at the speed we are, we're going to catch up with him no matter what. If we slow down, then, you know, it's going to kill your workout or whatever. So I told my partner, I said, hey, just get behind me. So me and my nice little ego, which sometimes I can't always keep in check, decides, you know, just blow by this guy. So I come rolling up on him, pick up the speed to about 25 miles an hour, really hit the gas, and just blow by him. And my partner, you know, barely holding on to the wheel, but goes by him. He says absolutely nothing this time. I think he does pick it up a little bit, because by the time we get back to the parking lot, he comes in only like 15-20 seconds later, which tells me he did try to pick it up. But it's funny, so he goes in the opposite direction, doesn't say a word this time, keeps his back to us the whole time. I was not trying to provoke him, but I was trying to blow by him because of his little comments about how fast he was. So again, you know, just the silly things that we can learn. And I'm like, Rob, is that really necessary? I'm like, I had three choices, I mean, the one, I didn't really want to ride in with them. If we kept the same speed, we would have just caught up with them. If we would have slowed down, I'm like, just blow by him, whatever. His wife comes in a little bit later. He says absolutely nothing. So lesson number 2, which I've heard through the grapevine as well, was that he's always on his best behavior when his wife's around. And his wife is smiling at everybody, and he's putting her bike in the van and putting his bike in the van. Totally different person around his wife. This guy's like on his best behavior, back to everybody. Usually he's walking up and down the parking lot making comments to people and looking in other people's cars. This time, and I've heard this through other people, he was simply on his best behavior with his wife around. So to me, that's kind of funny. It's like, so again, the dangerous people have two sides, right? One that they, let loose when nobody's really watching, and then the second one when somebody is watching, and I don't even want to begin to try to guess their dynamics, but apparently he's on his best behavior around her. So I found that to be kind of funny. And then the other point is like, what a coincidence that we, why, if we would have turned around a little bit earlier, we would have caught him sooner, and probably not felt the need to do that because we could have just got around him and not ended up with him at the end. Or if it would have taken longer to sip water at the halftime break there, we would have never caught him. But Murphy's Law, or the universe says, nah, this is what you're supposed to do. It's just crazy to me how the timing works out on things sometimes. And then finally, lesson number 3. So remember I told you about the wrestlers? So we're just getting ready to start our run called a brick workout. And there was a very friendly jogger comes jogging up, and she was younger, probably in her 20s, smiling, and she goes, "Hey, did you guys come from this direction?" And she points towards the overpass. And we said, no, we came from the other way. We just biked the other way. So, because there's 2 people over there, and they're acting really strange. They're wrestling in the grass. Now, you guys have to keep in mind, this is like, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever, like early. And so, like, all this is happening, right? Before most people wake up. That's another thing to think about, right? So, we look over, and I do see some people in the grass. I couldn't tell what the heck they're doing. But the girl's like, it's just strange. I live right over here. I'm going to go this way towards the opposite direction. I said, "Oh, that's probably a good idea." And I said, "Oh, by the way, this guy over here in the black," so we're still near our, black bear, not the real one, but the other one. And I said, "If you ever see him and you're by yourself, try to avoid him. It's this guy out here that's a little strange." She goes, "That guy?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, okay." It goes about her business, runs off, So I tell my partner, I said, "You know what? Let's just run towards the overpass." Now she's afraid to run by the 2 people wrestling in the woods. And there I can understand, but I'm like, look, I'm here, don't worry about it. Just run by him, she just went by him. They didn't say anything to her. So we go in that direction. I run by him and I look down. They weren't wrestling anymore. And I thought it was 2 guys from a distance, but what it turns out to be is a young couple. And they weren't wrestling, if you know what I mean. So I come up on them, and at this time they're cuddling. Basically halfway on the trail, halfway in the grass, and I'm like, okay, hey, they're not hurting anybody, So I just go by them. I look down. They notice me. They barely react to me, and I run. I'm doing a short run, a little mile. I go back and down my way, come back, turn around, look to the left. There they are again, but they're walking towards the fence. Don't really know what they're doing. Going deeper in the woods. I can only guess what they're doing. They come out. And my partner starts coming back a little bit later. She was on a longer run. She saw him. We get in the parking lot. We're trying to, clean off whatever, getting ready to wrap it up. And all of a sudden, here comes our infamous couple walking into the parking lot towards us. And, my first instinct is, oh boy, they're going to ask for money. They're coming up harmlessly, not aggressively. You can always tell. I can tell anyway. And, I'm not opposed, by the way. I'm not one of those that doesn't give homeless people money, and I'm not saying they're homeless, but I'm not opposed to it. Everybody has their own reasons for not doing things or doing things, but I usually do. As a matter of fact, I always do. And I know people say, well, they're going to use it for this. It's like, well, that's not for me to judge. Now, I will say I try to give people granola bars and water and stuff, and I do carry that in the truck so I can do that. But, if they need money, I'm going to give them money. It's not my place to judge, and if I have it, I'm going to give it to them. But I was thinking, oh boy, here it comes. And, I was thinking, right away, as human beings, because we have that frontal cortex, already is thinking before, we even know, we're anticipating. I'm already thinking, oh, where's my wallet, but they come up and the girl just basically looks at both of us and says, do you guys have any water? I forgot to fill my water bottle and there's nowhere out there to fill it up, which was, kind of was not true, because they wanted to make it seem like they were out there exercising too, when in reality, I think they were just out there from the night before partying and having a little sex, I think is the reality of what they were doing. But, again, it doesn't matter, honestly, they were minding their own business. And so I said, oh, yeah, and I looked and I only had electrolytes, and I don't know, I just thought that'd be weird if she and he finished my bottle of electrolytes. But fortunately, my partner had a big old jug of water, a gallon of water with maybe 3/4 of it left. And she goes, yeah, here you go. She goes, the whole thing? I said, yeah, take it. She said, oh, okay. And they walk off harmlessly and drink their water. I don't know what happened, but there's the other lesson there. It's kind of like, if you're in a position where you can help. So all this happens out on the trail for a day of exercising, which wouldn't have happened if I wasn't down there exercising. It would have been just some other mundane day of, maybe watching the news or scrolling the stupid internet or whatever the hell. But instead, I got to encounter a bear. I got to get a funny lesson of redemption, so to say. The fucking scumbag who's too slow, better pass him faster, got to blow his doors off, which was kind of funny, and then watch him come back with his tail between his legs, only to be on his best behavior while his wife is around. So that was pretty funny. And then we got to see the people who really they needed water, and we're there to give them water. And I'm not implying other people wouldn't have. They probably would have. I'm just saying that a lot happens out on the trail, so I just think it's pretty cool. If you want a great way to look for some adventures, get out and exercise outside, early morning, whatever. Ladies, I think you heard the message though, be cautious. Tell my daughter this all the time. She works at Publix, and there's some freak shows out there, man. There are men, old dirty men, that give her their phone number. Of course, she doesn't accept it. They call and ask her to do deliveries. She's a very pretty girl. There's some freaks out there. She's smart. She always stays with guys, she gets people to walk her out. She's working up into managerial roles there. I tell her all the time, be careful. So ladies, absolutely don't train alone. I don't care what anybody says. It is a good idea to have pepper spray. Protect yourselves, be smart, don't trust them. But you know what? Those cute little animals, even if they're bears, they're not going to hurt you. You go up and hug them, maybe. But they're not the ones out there. They're not the predators, okay? So that's just my little warning for today. Be safe. And until next time, please be Max Fit. Please be Max Well.